Sabet. I'm the former senior advisor to this nation's first African-American president, Barack Obama, where I wrote President Obama's drug control strategy and recalibrated this country's efforts away from law enforcement and criminalization towards public health. So I think a lot that's been said today is very valid, and we need to keep that in mind. I'm currently a professor at Yale University, as well as the president of SAM, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, which I co-founded with former Congressman Patrick Kennedy. I've heard a lot what was said today, and I think that we do need to correct the record on a few things. We're acting under a false dichotomy, that the only way we can deal with marijuana is two ways. One, legalization, which we heard a lot of passion about earlier, and I appreciate that passion, even though I may disagree with it. And on the other side, criminalization and the war on drugs, as if there are only two ways to deal with marijuana and to fix the wrongs that were rightfully pointed out this morning. I agree with what was stated about some of the racist history of our marijuana laws, and we absolutely need to fix those things. But to compare, and I'm going to go off my script a little bit, but submit to the record my written testimony. But I think so much was stated this morning that needs to be discussed. To be able to compare what George Washington was growing to 99% THC dabs that are being consumed by not just young people, but people of all ages, is really an affront to American history. There was no such thing as marijuana with THC more than 3%. During Woodstock days, which I don't think anybody here was old enough to be there. No, Reverend, you weren't.
Yeah, I went to college in the 60s.
All right, there you go. In Woodstock days, average marijuana was 6% THC.
That's correct.
Today, the average that we're seizing is about 15%, but in legalized states, it is about 30 to 40%, mainly because the edibles and the dabs and the cookies and the candies, things that drug dealers do not produce. These are things produced by so-called regulated, licensed retailers. And they're produced by those retailers because, folks, let's be very clear what this whole thing is about. It's about one thing and one thing only, and that's money. That is money. It's about profit. And if legislators want to say it's not about profit, and if people in this room want to say it's not about profit, I hope you will take a pledge now not to receive any money from the marijuana industry, nor benefit from the marijuana industry if it is legal. And I'm glad to hear a lot of people agreeing with that. The issue with alcohol prohibition is a false equivalence. Alcohol has been used by 80% of Western civilization since before the Old Testament. That's old. That's just ancient Greece. Marijuana has been used for a long time too, thousands of years, but not by 80% of the West, by about less than 3%. We're stuck with this drug, alcohol. How has it been for us? Where are the liquor stores located in this state? Are they located in Morristown or in the nice suburbs? Where are the grocery stores located? Where can you get some fresh broccoli? I'm talking about the real broccoli, not pot. Where can you get cigarettes and play the lotto? If we have had tax revenue from these items, and we want to make sure we don't clap, we're gonna violate the rules here.
Keep the rooms down too. The rooms like clapping.
Yeah, that's right. Clapping is a new. That's right. That's right. But where has that tax revenue gone, folks? We've had legal alcohol for 80 years. Do we have free alcohol treatment on demand? Do we have schools funded the way they should be?
Nope.
Do people in this room actually think that you are going to benefit from another legalized drug?
Nope.
We don't have it for tobacco, we don't have it for alcohol, and by the way, we don't have it for this other industry out there that's ruining the lives, the legal opioid industry, which has special interest lobbies funded by their profits. If you think for a minute that we're not gonna have, or don't already have, the special interest lobbying for their own profits, that you don't understand the basic economics of business and the economics of an addictive product. 20% of Americans consume 80% of all alcohol in this country. That's 80% of the revenue. That means if you're in the alcohol business, you need alcoholics to survive. The marijuana business would be no different. It's the minority, I'm not saying the majority of people are going to go use heroin who try marijuana, or the majority of them are going to be addicted. We can agree they're not going to be. But in this business, You have to focus on those people who are using it often, and you have to encourage heavy use. That's not good for public health. What about the black market? We really think that drug dealers are going to get licenses, pay taxes. Some might, but we know in Colorado, and we're going to hear later from a police chief in Colorado, a former one, that the black market, the underground market, is thriving in legal states. You undercut the legal price, you don't play by the rules, and the demand for marijuana and the reputation has gone sky high. You benefit from that demand. You benefit from the government saying this is great. We also know that the contamination is a huge issue. There are no EPA standards. This is a law. This is a drug that's against federal law. That means if the Attorney General wakes up on the wrong side of the bed tomorrow and decides to prosecute, well within the law to do so. And for states to put their federal money at risk and to think that the EPA is going to regulate contaminants is naive. Already thousands of products, in fact, let me tell you, hundreds of thousands of individual wrapped legal products in Colorado have been recalled because of contamination. So the contamination issue does not just end with legalization. We're promised all of these things. We're promised tax revenue, we're promised social justice, and I do want to talk about social justice for a minute. I was part of President Obama's task force for criminal justice reform. We strongly agree in the abolition of mandatory minimum sentences, and we strongly disagree with the analogy of the war on drugs, like many in this room do. However, what we have seen in Colorado for social justice has been abysmal. First of all, if you look at who's being arrested in Colorado, you would have thought there'd be fewer black and Hispanics arrested. Actually, the rate of young black and Hispanic youth being arrested for marijuana possession has gone up in that state since legalization. It has not gone down. It has gone down among whites, 8%. It's gone up among blacks, 29%, Hispanics, 58%. It is still illegal if you're under 21 to use. It is still illegal to use it outside. It is still illegal to use it in public housing. It is still illegal to use it anywhere public. But if you can use it in grandma's basement, she doesn't mind, maybe you can get away with it. Unfortunately, that by itself is disproportionate in terms of its policy. The rate of DUI arrests have gone up, and they are also disproportionately been minority arrests. And where are the pot shops in Denver? They are overwhelmingly in low-income communities in the northeastern part of Denver, which is the African American, and the western part of Denver, which is the largely Hispanic communities. That's where they are located. The white folks in a lot of the other communities have banned marijuana. They are fine to vote for it, but they don't want it in their community, and they have the political power to keep it out of their community. The issue, unfortunately, has fallen disproportionately in social justice. And then the final thing I want to talk about is, where does this end? Because all of the arguments used about drug dealers, tax revenue, regulation, contaminants, they all can be applied to other drugs. Do we really think that the legalization movement ends with a drug like marijuana? A drug that really anybody can grow in their own backyard, very easy to grow, very easy to smuggle, different than a drug like cocaine that needs processing, different than drugs like heroin that need processing from opium. These same arguments can, and mark my word, in the next 10 to 20 years, will be used to legalize other drugs as well. Because if you believe that a drug dealer can go away with regulation if they deal with pot, you have to also be able to use that argument for every other drug itself. We should reform laws. We need to have expungement. We support the bill on the table about decriminalization. You want to talk about open air drug markets, that's exactly what you have when you have a legalized market with advertising, marketing, commercialization, and special interest groups, which is exactly what happens under legalization. Finally, where does this end in terms of the workplace? We know that in places like Colorado, they have a hard time hiring people who can pass a drug test. The construction industry is having a very difficult time hiring in-state folks. We know that employers will drug test even more. By the way, who is that going to fall on in a social justice way? If you have a rich uncle that can get you a job at his real estate company, you'll probably be okay, because he's not going to drug test you. But if you're in one of the hundreds of thousands of other jobs that are a lot of low-skill jobs, you will be tested, and there will be ramifications that will fall under will have a disproportionate impact. So I ask all of you on the committee, thank you for inviting me. I'm going to submit the written testimony, but I think we need to slow this train down, because the only people who benefit from how quickly this conversation has slid to legalization are the people who stand to profit and make money, and I guarantee you most of them, but not all of them, are not in this room right now. Thank you so much.
Now,